Yonder on the horizon, rain of peace is roaring in. Our King rides on the white horse, with eyes of fire, sword to give. From the sky to reunite us, bring the two sticks into one. Come reveal your mighty kingdom and rule forever on this earth. In New Jerusalem, take us to that city, New Jerusalem. Trumpets usher down the New Jerusalem. We're clothed in white, eternal New Jerusalem, with Yahusha, our King. Thousands on our left and right before, bursting into flaming fire. Yahusha's bride will be carried, driven by the extra oil. There is no filth in this kingdom, so if you want to make the list, offer up, surrender all now. Prepare yourself and you will be in New Jerusalem. Take us to that city, New Jerusalem. Trumpets usher down the New Jerusalem. We're clothed in white, eternal New Jerusalem, with Yahusha, our King, in the Yahuwah Shammah. He is in that city, in the Yahuwah Shammah. Peace and love abound in the Yahuwah Shammah. Lawlessness forgotten in the Yahuwah Shammah. It's the name of New Jerusalem, a bride adorned for her groom, New Jerusalem. Former things have gone, New Jerusalem. No more sun nor moon there, New Jerusalem, with Yahusha, Yahuwah Shammah, Yahuwah Shammah. He is in that city. Peace and love abound in the Yahuwah Shammah. Lawlessness forgotten in the Yahuwah Shammah. It's the name of New Jerusalem. Take us to that city. Trumpets usher down my King. We're clothed in white, eternal New Jerusalem, with Yahusha, our King, Jerusalem. take us to that city. Trumpets usher down my King. We're clothed in white, eternal, New Jerusalem. With Yahusha, our King, New Jerusalem. Take us to that city, Jerusalem. Trumpets usher down Jerusalem. We're clothed in white, eternal, New Jerusalem. With Yahusha, our King. Usher down. Looking to that city, we're looking to that city. City of peace, city of joy, city of righteousness. Looking to that city.
I saw all these amazing stairways with gardens around, mostly green, and beautiful brickwork and beautiful stairways going up, and I kept climbing and going up and up. And then we got to the top, came over a rise and saw a huge city, and there was fire burning in the cities. And it wasn't like a bushfire that we see, a wildfire. There was just sort of small. And Yahusha said, I'm going to deal with all flesh that has sin. The weeds are separated from the wheat. And we watched every man and woman that were unclean, burning from the inside out. This was the small fires, and he wanted to deal with all the flesh on the earth. Then we were taken up higher again, and then this incredible heat and not flame, but like a radiating heat came down, and there was massive combustion everywhere, blowing up everything that's being destroyed. Everything that man had built, all the beautiful buildings and places, they're all just blowing up with his combustion. And we were taken higher again to meet Yahusha.
Wow.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Hallelujah. To pray for the word, Victor.
Heavenly Father, your plan is amazing for us. We just thank you. In your presence tonight, we pray for your word. Pray for Mark as he delivers the word to each one of us. Bring it to our hearts, Yahusha, and set us free with your word. You are your word, and we pray that that will give us life more abundantly, and break through any of the barriers that we have. Thank you, Yahusha. So be it.
Okay. I want to preface this message by saying, out of all the things we've discussed so far, this was by far the hardest one for me to wrap my mind around, to the point where a few days ago during the week, we were at the salon and I just doing this seminar thing. This was the last of them, and I just threw my hands up in the air and thought, I've had enough of this. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do about it. And the next day I saw, as most of you know, an article that Christopher put up. Guess what it was all about? And when I looked back at the time that he must have posted it and written it, it was exactly when I was going, stuff this, making up my mind about things. Very supernatural in nature, this chapter today. So what we'll do is, there's too much information to do both. So on the last day of the feast, we'll go through Christopher's article, and I think that'll be a wonderful way to end this Passover seminar, yeah? Make it really real. Otherwise, we could have done both. It would have just been too long to do both. Tonight's about demon princes. The final 3 chapters of Daniel, 10, 11, 12, are the account of Yahuwah's last words and vision to his servant Daniel. So chapter 10 today gives us the Chapter 10 today gives us the setup and the circumstances of how the vision came to Daniel. And then the vision itself is in chapter 11 and 12. So today is just how he comes to get the vision. And the next 2 chapters are the vision themselves. And this final encounter was a very traumatic experience for Daniel. Why? Because what's happening here in chapter 10, if you look at the different Hebrew words that are being used, it's not a dream that Daniel's having while he's asleep. No. And it also isn't a vision, a kezion, in the sense of a conscious or semi-conscious inspiration like Daniel had in his first 2 visions. Rather, this event of these last chapters was a fully awake, actual supernatural encounter. An event that even involved a very real glimpse into the spiritual realm. So we see a progression in intensity during Daniel's life of how Yahuwah communicated with him. We can see that even in our own lives. There's a progression in intensity. He starts soft and gentle. The closer he comes to us, is it pleasurable always? Or is it a hot? It's burning. So Daniel's going to go through something in this chapter today. And as Joel 2 says, your old men will dream dreams and your young men will see visions. And we're seeing that happen. Let's dive into this chapter. During the third year that Cyrus was the king of Persia. So now Cyrus has come in now. Darius is gone and now Cyrus is in. Third year that Cyrus was the king of Persia, these things were shown to Daniel. Daniel's other name is Belshazzar. By this time, the first wave of Jewish exiles had returned to Jerusalem under the leadership of Ezra 1 and 2. So this is really the end of Daniel's life. The last vision he gets. The Jews had started going back to their land, as recorded in Ezra. It says here, Ezra 1, in the first year of Koresh, which is Cyrus, king of Persia, in order for the word of Yahuwah, prophesied by Jeremiah, to be fulfilled, Yahuwah stirred up the spirit of Koresh, that's Cyrus, king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout his whole kingdom, which he also put in writing as follows. He said, here is what Koresh, king of Persia, says. Yahuwah, the Elohim of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms on earth, and he has charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, in Judah. So whoever there is among you of all his people, may his Elohim be with him. He may go up to Jerusalem. You're free. You may go up to Jerusalem in Judah and build the house of Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel. The Elohim who is in Jerusalem. Let every survivor, no matter where he lives, be helped by his neighbours with silver, gold, goods and animals, in addition to the voluntary offering for the house of Elohim in Jerusalem. So the word's gone forth. The Jews can go home. So we saw that was a big deal to Daniel in our last chapter last night. He was wondering, when's this 70-year captivity going to be over? So that's happened. It's been about 2 years since that happened. About 2 years have passed since the exile of the Jews to Babylon was over, and many Jews had already found their way back to Judah and were working with Cyrus's blessing to rebuild the temple and try to make Jerusalem more livable. So Daniel continues, the things shown are true, often troubling and hard to understand. But Daniel understood them because they were explained to him in a vision. At that time, I, Daniel, was very sad and mourning for 3 weeks. During that time, I didn't eat any fancy food. I didn't eat any meat or drink any wine, and I didn't put any oil on my head. That's like today saying I didn't wear any aftershave. I didn't put any cream on I didn't pamper myself at all. Nothing pleasant. I didn't do any of these things for 3 weeks. How many days is 3 weeks? Keep that in your mind. Daniel was not expecting what was about to happen to him. Daniel was in mourning because so few Jews had returned with Ezra from Babylonian exile. He'd been pouring out his heart last night, remember? For this prophet to be over. Let us go home, let us go home. Finally we can go home? No one's interested. So apart from lazy indifference, another major reason for the Jews to stay was because Ezra, who wrote that scripture just up there, he was facing severe opposition in rebuilding the temple. The rebuilding of the temple was being hindered to the point that the project had all but collapsed. The local residents who had moved into Judah and the area of Jerusalem while the Jews were exiled were the culprits. And apparently King Cyrus wasn't doing anything to stop these folk from causing trouble. The temple was everything. The temple to these people was everything. For 70 years the Jews were left to wallow in their sins and uncleanness, with no remedy because they had no temple, no altar, and therefore no operational priesthood. I'd never looked at it from that point of view. They had no way to get clean. The only way they could get clean was to take an animal to the priest, wasn't it? So they had no way to be clean. Their sins were with them. They felt guilty all the time. For 70 years the Jews were wallowing, read that bit, no altar, and therefore no operational priesthood. Daniel would have felt this loss the most. He was very obedient, spiritual, for want of a better word. He would have felt this. No priesthood, no sacrificial system. This ongoing conflict in Judah between the returning Jews and the locals was well known in the region, and it was even recorded with some detail in the book of Ezra. Daniel didn't go back either. Daniel did not go back with Ezra's group of exiles either. However, he was nearly 90 years old at this time and could better serve the exiles from his high position in government than he could with them in the Jerusalem construction site. So we're going to use the age card here. It's pretty hard for a 90-year-old to do all that. On the 24th day of the first month of the year, some say that was around Passover time, but that's irrelevant to this story. On the 24th day of the first month of the year, I was walking beside the great Tigris, or the Hiddekel River. While I was standing there, I looked up and saw a man standing in front of me. Keep in mind, when I first started reading this, I just assumed it was Yahusha. I looked up and saw a man standing in front of me. He was wearing linen clothes, like a priest, wore a belt made of pure gold from Aphaz around his waist. Not a fashionable belt like we'd wear, a belt to roll up your skirt, your tunic, so you can gird your loins to work. That's what the belts were for. Had that around his waist. His body was like a smooth, shiny beryl stone, and his face shone bright like lightning. His eyes were like flames of fire. His arms and feet were shiny like polished brass, and his voice was loud like a great multitude of people. How could you not assume that's Yahusha? I, Daniel, was the only one who saw the vision. The men with me didn't see the vision, but they were still afraid. In fact, they were so afraid that they ran away and hid. Remember Paul's experience with Yahusha on the road to Damascus? The men travelling with him saw a light, but couldn't hear Yahusha's voice either, for it was not for them. Likewise, these guys were seized with fear, either from the voice they heard or from some strange concussion or vibration of the air that they felt. But it was a great quaking that fell upon them, proving that Daniel wasn't just imagining his experience here. The men with Daniel retreated in haste when this feeling of terror overcame them, and Daniel was left standing there alone. Why didn't Daniel flee too? Wasn't he afraid? Why not? Because he had similar supernatural experiences before, though not as intense as this. And no doubt knew that a meeting with the divine presence was underway, no matter how uncomfortable it was. Nonetheless, this is something one never gets used to. He was so overwhelmed and filled with anxiety that his face became contorted under the stress. His knees buckled and his body shook uncontrollably. When the voice began to instruct him, his instinct was to immediately fall to the ground and assume the position of submission and worship. We're going to see that. Daniel was left alone. I was left alone. I was watching this vision and it freaked me right out. I lost all my strength and dignity. My face turned white like a dead person's and I was helpless. Then I heard the man in the vision talking, and as I listened to his voice, I laid with my face to the ground, completely stunned and shaking. He wasn't asleep. He wasn't just in some trance during the day. He was watching this happen in front of him, a supernatural experience. Just like Moses' experience on the mountain, even the greatest of men cannot bear, especially not in this point of history, cannot bear the immediate radiating shock of divine power and esteem. So he's been leveled. He's freaking out. Then a hand touched me. So I got to my hands and knees, so afraid that I was trembling. Now, it doesn't say there was lightning or earthquakes or anything of that nature going on. All it says is this being appeared. Just the being itself was enough to, what would he have seen? What would he have felt? The power radiating from this person. So, got to his hands and knees, so afraid that he was trembling. The man in the vision said to me, "Daniel, you are loved and appreciated very much. So think very carefully about these words I speak to you. Stand up now, for I've been sent to you." Who sends Yahuwah anywhere? Who sends Yahusha anywhere? No. That was my first clue. Despite a similar description in appearance to other places, this is an indication that this being was not Yahusha. The being gently touches him and says to Daniel, "I've been sent to you." Yahusha doesn't dispatch himself to a messenger, as a messenger. And when someone lays flat on their face before him, he doesn't tell them to stand up and confront him face to face. Most agree this was the chief Archangel Gabriel, who often worked closely with Michael, who's going to be mentioned shortly. I think this was Gabriel. And when he said this, I stood up, still shaking because I was petrified. Then the man in the vision started talking again, saying, "Daniel, don't be afraid. From the first day," you get this bit, "from the first day you set your heart on getting wisdom and to be humble in front of your Elohim, he's been listening to your prayers. And that's why I'm here today, because of your words." What if he hadn't been seeking wisdom? What if he hadn't been humble? What if he hadn't been praying? Well, he'd be dead, yeah. He wouldn't get this experience, would he? Not at all. No one would have been sent to him. What about the power of prayer from a clean heart? What about the power of prayer from a clean heart? We can't pass over this lightly. An archangel was actually dispatched because of Daniel's intense prayers. This is another of many reminders in the book of Daniel that prayer truly matters. It isn't merely a therapeutic exercise for the one who prays. So, now get this bit. He stood up now and he's ready to listen. He's getting over it a bit. Gabriel says, but the prince over Persia, this was where it started going real cosmic and spooky for me. But the prince over Persia, that bit wasn't there. I've come to that conclusion. The prince over Persia has been fighting against me for 21 days now. How long was Daniel praying for? Prince of Persia has been fighting against me for 21 days now. So Michael, one of our chief princes, came to help me because I was stuck there with that prince of Persia. Now I've come to you, Daniel, to explain to you what will happen to your people in the latter days. Yes, this vision is for a future time. We're not going to get the vision tonight. That's the next 2 chapters. This is the setup of the whole, how it came to him. So he's been fighting for 21 days because the angel was sent the minute Daniel started praying because he was distressed about his people. And Yahuwah sent someone straight away. But, and this is the first I'd heard of it, someone's holding this angel up. Prince of Persia, a demon spirit. Many think that this being speaking to Daniel is Yahusha, but I really can't see Yahusha being inferior or struggling with any other spirit or principality to the point of needing assistance from Michael the archangel. Can you? No. While the man was talking to me, I bowed low with my face towards the ground and I couldn't speak. Then the one who looked like a son of man, human being, touched my lips. So he's dumbfounded. He's just freaked out and he touches his lip. Then I was able to open my mouth and I started to speak, saying to the one standing in front of me, Master, I'm upset and afraid because of what I saw in the vision. I feel completely helpless. I am Daniel, your servant. So how can I talk with you, my master? My strength is gone and it's hard for me to breathe. This pressure, this radiation, we like to say, this set apart perfection coming at him was like freaking him out. He could barely breathe. This was a real supernatural experience. So the one who looked like a man touched me again, and then I felt better. Then he said, Daniel, don't be afraid, for you are loved and appreciated very much. Peace be with you. Be strong now. And then he repeats it. Be strong. And when he spoke to me, I became stronger and said, Master, I feel much better now, for you've given me strength. Please continue to speak. So he said, Daniel, do you know why I've come to you? Soon I must go back to fight against the prince of Persia, a demon spirit. And when I go, the prince of Greece, another demon spirit, will come. But Daniel, before I go, I must first tell you what is written in the scripture of truth. For no one stands with me against those princes, demon spirits, except Michael, the prince over your people. So at first I was reading it like all these princes are just earthly princes, but an earthly prince can't hold up an angel from delivering comfort through a prayer, can? No, can't do that. These are all spirits. And then I thought they were just assigned, so they're good spirits that are having a bit of a tiff. But no, spirits that have been sent and assigned by Yahuwah are obedient, and they wouldn't dare, particularly after seeing what happens if you're not. They wouldn't be holding up the word of truth from coming to Daniel in his time of need. So these are demon spirits. They are wicked. That's my conclusion. Since this spirit prince over Persia was able to oppose the angelic messenger to Daniel, we know this was more than a man. This prince was some kind of principality. And we know he was evil because he opposed the word, as I said, coming to Daniel and stood against the angelic messenger. That's the scripture. That was enough to freak me out. In Hebrew understanding, the word prince has the idea of a ruler or authority, which fits in well with the latter idea that angelic ranks are organized and have a hierarchy. I want you to concentrate on this. Try and put on your spiritual goggles and understand what we see on earth with ranks and hierarchies and armies and military, princes, governors, kings. This is happening in another dimension as well. We don't hear about it, we don't know about it. Princes in another dimension. Ephesians 6 says it, we put it in our book. For we are not fighting people, but demons in high places. Demons that are controlling princes. Demons against high places against authorities, world rulers, princes of the darkness of this age. Against spiritual matters of wickedness in the heavenlies. In a couple of chapters at the end of Daniel, we'll see that he says, now at that time, Michael, the great prince, who stands guard over the sons of your people, which at this time was Israel, great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, Daniel, will arise. And there will be a time of distress, such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be delivered. Yahushua said, but the Pharisees were saying in Matthew, he casts out demons by the prince of the demons. Just showing you where this word is throughout the scriptures. Yahushua said, now judgment is upon this world. Now the prince of this world will be cast out. John 14, I will not speak much more with you, for the prince of the world is coming, and he has nothing in me. So Yahushua knew all this, didn't he? That's why it was no problem for him to just go. He knew who he was. He knew his power. He knew the hierarchy and the ranks going on, and he was at the top. Ephesians 2, in which you formerly walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the airwaves, of the spirit that is now working in all the sons of disobedience. How do you feel that there are princes in the airwaves that can just control you when they want? Can just wave shiny things in front of you and you're off. Princes, power of the airwaves. Just because Yahushua's in control of the whole world now, these princes are still going, it's still happening in the world. He's allowing it to see who will overcome them and choose to. 1 Timothy 4 says, but the Spirit says clearly that in latter times some will be turned away from the belief, giving their minds, hearts, over to spirits of deceit and the teachings of evil spirits, princes. Revelation 16, finally, for they are evil spirits working signs who go out even to the kings of all the earth to get them together to the war of the great day of Yahushua, the Prince of all. So all the governments and authorities and kings and presidents and princes are being manipulated and controlled by these demon princes. The angelic ranks include both obedient angels and fallen angels. And apparently this prince in Daniel 10 was a demon of high rank that opposed the answer to Daniel's prayer. On 3 occasions, Yahushua referred to Satan as the prince of the power of the airwaves, which shows that he does have power, doesn't he? But not as much as Yahushua. So since this angel speaking to Daniel was dispatched immediately, and Daniel's period of prayer was 21 days, the 3 full weeks mentioned, we see that the answer to the prayer was delayed by this demon prince over Persia. Daniel was so loved that a response to his distress was sent immediately, but took 3 weeks to get through. Look at that statement there. Does Yahushua change? Are we that? Could you dare say that you might be just as loved as Daniel? Of course we are. He was so loved that a response to his distress. What do we get when we're in distress? A response. He sends the response straight away. Doesn't always get there though, does it? Straight away. The connection between Daniel's time of prayer and the duration of the battle between the angels and the demon prince of Persia establishes a link between Daniel's prayer and the angelic victory. Because maybe if he'd stopped praying or given up after a couple of days, no one's here, I'm going home, he may not have got through. There's power in prayer, Yahusha said, isn't there? Since the victory came on the 21st day. In other scriptures, like Jude and Revelation, Michael is associated with the battle between good angels and evil angels. Yahuwah obviously allowed this kind of conflict surrounding Daniel because he had a purpose. He certainly could have blasted away any demonic opposition in a moment. He can do that. But his plan was to use the time of delay to develop Daniel as a man of persistent prayer, strong belief. What have we been talking about? The behavior of waiting on Yahusha to do it. So persistence in prayer is necessary, not because Yahusha is reluctant and needs to be overcome, but rather it is necessary to train us and mature us. So Daniel's success makes us reflect on our own lives, how much angelic assistance or insight has never been realized or greatly delayed because of a lack of requesting it. Persistence in prayer. You don't receive because you don't ask. He says that. In case I lose it there, that's just Yahusha saying, I've got legions of angels. Yahusha knew that. Remember when one of them cut off the ear? I think it was Peter, cut off the guy's ear. Yahusha puts it back on and says, stop. I've got legions of angels that could rescue me if I wanted it. He didn't want it at that time. Daniel 10 provides some insight into spiritual warfare and the conflict of these invisible kingdoms at war over the inhabitants of the kingdom of this world. The work of demons is to oppose all that is divine, and particularly the purposes of Yahusha in the earth. In the historical setting, Babylon had fallen, Medo-Persia had come to power, and the restoration of Judah and Jerusalem was taking place. But the various princes of the world kingdoms under satanic influence and control were opposing the restorative work of Yahuwah in Jerusalem. The demons and Satan did not want that temple to be rebuilt. To us it might seem useless. Yahuwah never went back to the temple, but Yahuwah wanted it built again for his purposes. That's why he sent his prophets to do it when they left Babylon. It was part of the plan of what he was doing, and Satan was against it. This is also seen in the vision of Zechariah as he sees Satan standing at the right hand of Joshua, the high priest, to resist and oppose him in his priestly functions. That's in Zechariah. See also Satan's activities against Yahuwah's servant Job. We saw a lot of activity there. Satan at that point could go in and out, up and down, and fly in and out and pester and accuse people that he wanted. Can't do that now though, can he? He's been booted out. Yahuwah is in control. He is sovereign. All will be ready for Messiah when he comes in the appointed time. But here Daniel sees that there is spiritual warfare taking place against the purposes of Yahuwah and his people. No wonder he was burdened in prayer and mourning in his spirit before Yahuwah. Because I dare say Daniel even had a greater grasp of the spiritual than we've had in the past. He understood. He'd been rescued from the lion then. He'd had his mates rescued in the fire. They'd seen this mysterious being in there with them, Yahusha. They knew the supernatural power. Satan has his kingdom over which he reigns. Satan is the prince of the power of the air and the prince of darkness, and he controls the princes of the world systems. He influences the minds and wills of earth rulers. The prince of the kingdom of Persia and Greece refers to those principalities and powers who influence the earthly kings of these kingdoms. Satan is a fallen angel and fights against Yahuwah's elect and set-apart angels, Gabriel and Michael. There is a set-apart war going on in the spirit realm. Yahuwah is the man of war, it says that in Exodus. He is the captain of Yahuwah's hosts. The ultimate war is the war in heaven. Satan and his angels fight against Michael and his angels and then are cast out to the earth. Yahushua booted them out. These are the things that are in seed form, just in seed form in the Revelation, but they're given to Daniel here in chapter 10. That's why Daniel was so stressed. He's getting stuff that's way beyond his time. Even John was stressed out, and he was, way further on in history. Daniel was about to receive the answer to his prayer, but the battle was not over for his heavenly messenger. First, he must battle the prince of Persia, then the prince of Greece. Yahuwah watched out for Israel, working behind the scenes in the spiritual realm. Michael seemed to be an angelic guardian of Israel at this time anyway, battling against the demonic representative of Persia or any other who opposed Yahuwah's people. So let's get into some real stuff. Did you know that? I didn't know any of that about the spirit realm and the princes of the prince over this one, and the prince, demons controlling things like that. When we say it, there's demons and they control things, but to actually be privy to a little episode of angels and demons fighting each other, that was amazing. Does this unpeel a whole new layer of spiritual awareness for you? Something we seem to have very little understanding of. On earth, we, his bridal people, we seem lowly, we seem base, and we seem weak. And the evil princes will have us stay that way, in complete ignorance and darkness of who we truly are, what we've been created for, and who we have direct access to through our portals. They want us not to know that at all. Despite our fleshly shortcomings, in the heavens we have the mightiest representatives protecting and defending us. Do you face that on a daily basis? They're not only watching us, the angels, recording things, they're protecting us all the time. How many serious accidents, how many car accidents, how many sicknesses and how many things have they been fighting off? No, get lost. And we get consequences and hard times, but we're pretty much safe wherever we go, aren't we? So why don't we believe it and communicate? Believe who we are despite all opposition. Yahushua has given us the power to say no to these wicked princes and overcome them and operate in sync with the supernatural. He's given us that power. We have the right to. Yahushua is always looking for those who are open to hear his voice, and into whose hearts he may drop his special words and understandings into a right word in the right moment. That's what Christopher was saying to you last night, remember? Why did I get it? Why? Yahushua's always looking for those who are open to hear his voice. So he can drop things in there. He can fill you with things, understandings, a right word at the right moment. Daniel 10 provides us with the assurance that Yahushua always hears our prayers from the very first day we pray them. We don't always get an answer straight away. He still has a will and a purpose in everything, but he hears us. We need to recognize that there is a spiritual warfare going on between heaven and earth, Yahushua and Satan, demons and the set-apart elect angels. Whole different reality going on that we can't see. It may take time for this angelic warfare to be accomplished, but the answer is always on the way. Does this give you confidence to talk to Yahushua? Ask him about things. Talk to him. Not just go to him when you want stuff, but just communicate. And not just go, it's what choice do I have? Everything's crap, what. No. There is always an answer. You never know. He might have already sent you the answer. The messengers got held up somewhere, fighting some pesky little demon. Yahushua is sovereign and in control of the whole universe and rules over all creation and all creatures. But remember, it is the angels who do the fighting. You're not supposed to talk to demons or entertain them. Don't listen to them. It's the angels who do the fighting, while we do the praying and the overcoming. We're not to fight people. We've got to overcome ourselves, overcome the flesh. Let them do the fighting. We do what Yahushua wants us to do. And sure, there is a fight, there is a battle to stop them from coming through. But the angels are doing all this invisible fighting. Yahushua and his angels are all for the bride, and no weapon formed against us shall prosper. So, is the supernatural reality of angels and demons present in our homes? Has it been? No way. Should it be? We saw the list last night of things that have to be accomplished before Yahushua comes back in our homes. Is the supernatural reality of angels and demons present in our homes? It's starting to be. Are we really consciously communicating with Yahushua and listening for his reply? Because you can hear him. Unlike Daniel, who might have got anointed here and there and had these amazing encounters, we have him inside us all the time. All the time. Get away from the microphone. All the time. What angelic assistance are we missing out on due to lack of belief and obsession with the world? Because the world's very easy to be obsessed with, isn't it? It's very shiny and sparkly and lots of trinkets and mad things to get involved with. But if we do, what angelic assistance are we missing out on? What supernatural reality are we not tapping into? Because the world's just way too more exciting. The bride is to be working alongside Yahushua and his angels in ridding the evil forces from our homes. Otherwise, he cannot return yet, can he? And just to give you a bit of a perspective, in Isaiah 37 it says, one angel slew 185,000 in one night. One angel killed 185,000 people in one night. And Messiah said he had 12 legions of angels, which is over 72,000 of angels ready to defend him. That means in one night they could kill 13 billion people. Does that give you an indication of the power? They could get rid of everybody in one night. That's not how it's going to happen, is it? But that's just to give you an idea from the scripture. One angel slew that many people in one night, and he's got a whole legion of them defending us. Can you wrap your minds around this and tap into it every day? He loves you. He loved Daniel. That's what he said. After all the freaking out and everything, stand up. He loves you. Be at peace. You're greatly valued, appreciated. That's the message, guys, tonight. Anybody like to respond? Speak about it? Bit of a blowout, isn't it? I hadn't looked in the spiritual realm like that. But it's happening. It's invisible, but it's happening. Yeah? So, amazing. Anyone? Would you like to close the meeting for me, Joe?
Thank you for being here again with us tonight, Yahushua. Thank you for this wonderful word that you've given us tonight. And Lord, we're going to take it in and we're going to make a change and take it to heart what you've shown us tonight so we can change and become even better for you. And we're just so thankful that you've been here tonight with us again and you've worked with all of us. And we're just so happy that you're always with us. We just love you so much and we're thankful for everything that you're doing. And we just want to pray that you'll help and bless Matthew and the kids down in Sydney. Give them your strength and show them your way and truth. And
guys. When you pray, believe it. It's being heard. Prayers are being heard.
Well, I was kind of a wondering whether you could help me. With the problem that will kind of make her screaming. It's a problem that I face. Time and time, I face. Never the coming, bringing it back, and the hip and the humming, the drum and the bass, and yo go. That's what you want to go quick. And jump in the purple, jump a groove, like my poker. Stick up, flicker to a flavor. Beat you rocking harder than a break to a layer. Ease up, mother brown, put your knees up. Can you be flipping and kicking like a Bruce Lee? Beat you, guys, beat you, wanna take the shower, beat you, gonna eat you like a cream puff. 'Cause I can't get enough.
Come on, yeah.
Can't get enough, can't get enough, can't get enough, no. 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 Here it is for his, for better, for worse, for what? When the sleeping best kids on the air, mixing up a storm, brewing up a tornado.
Having an abundance of platonic relationships reminiscent of my man Mike Plato.
I was running down the street just screaming, I was blind, but I lost my voice like I lost my mind, and I couldn't get another, couldn't get another, couldn't get another.